Hi, everyone. My name is Christian. I'm on the marketing team here at Queue-it. Thank you for being here and attending today's webinar, How Major Brands Are Using NFTs to Drive Sales and Boost Brand Loyalty. So a note on today's webinar, it will be recorded, so you can go back and review it yourself or pass along to a colleague who might have missed it today. We have set aside 10 to 15 minutes at the end to review the Q&A, have some Q&A with our speakers. So we're streaming both on Zoom and on LinkedIn today. So if you're on LinkedIn, feel free to drop a comment into the event. If you're on Zoom, you should see a toolbar with a Q&A section at the bottom. Put your questions in there, and we'll be sure to take them at the very least at the end, if not during the presentation. So without further ado, let's get today's presentation started by having our panelists introduce themselves. James and Jimmy, James, would you like to start?
I'll be happy to. Hi, everybody. My name is James, or JB. I'm a solution architect with Queue-it. Happy to be here today. I'm also the director of technical engagement for our North American team. And my job is to basically help people who are interested in or who are clients make the most out of the Queue-it product. And I'm going to turn my video off today. I think I have a face for radio, so I just wanted to say hi. And Jimmy, super excited to have you with us today.
Awesome, thank you. Yeah, nice to meet you all. Thank you for having me. I'm a digital and marketing vet with about 14 years of experience and a dog that wants to leave the room. Go. 14 years of experience in brand and digital marketing at Nike, and then have now been in the NFT space, leading the marketing efforts for Nifty's for a little over 6 months now. Nifty's is a platform that connects fans with what they love the most through NFT-powered collectibles and experiences and rewards. And it's been a wild 6 months.
Well, very cool. And yeah, I know NFTs. If you were to have this conversation 3-4 years ago, who knows what the conversation would have looked like? But I know it's an exciting space. And so, yeah, I think we're ready to get started. And so, Queue-it works with all kinds of high demand products, and now we have these NFTs. And the question is, what are they? So I wanted to set a little foundation of what I think I know of this space, Jimmy, and then you are a subject matter expert and our pro with marketing. Very excited to hear your thoughts. So first of all, a quick definition for everybody in case you have or haven't heard it. NFT stands for non-fungible token. And non-fungible basically means that each asset could be unique or distinct, kind of like an artwork or a collectible. For example, $1 is $1 all the time, but the value of NFTs are decided by the people who own them, want to buy them. And it's a digital asset, means it's your physical assets are your phone, your house, some property, but these are in the digital world. And the way that they're controlled is through what we've heard about blockchain technology. And blockchain is basically like a ledger that exists around the world that's secure. So when someone gets something, it's put on the blockchain, it's permanent and it's visible. And so the nice thing about, I guess, with NFTs, if somebody buys something, there's proof that they own it. And it's not the case with other kinds of assets. So in a way, NFTs are unique and powerful. Did I miss anything, Jimmy, would you say about what NFTs are?
No, I mean, it's pretty endless. And I love hearing the way different people describe it. I think maybe the only thing that I would add is I personally look at it as a tool for community building. And it's sort of specifically one that can help communities align their shared interests and incentives around. At Nifty's, we get really excited because we think they allow for kind of the full potential of personalized loyalty. And you can deliver that without requiring a brand to collect huge sums of sort of first party data or invade someone's personal privacy. And you can do that and still deliver a truly individualized loyalty program that rewards behaviors and preferences of people at a one-to-one level. So that's an even further definition into it for me, but I think you nailed it.
Well, and I love that personalized aspect of that. And I think we'll jump into that a little bit as well here. Well, thanks for that. And well, in the question, just so there's no mystery, are NFTs, really a thing? We know they're in the news, but well, yeah, 23 billion in sales in 2021. 29 million digital wallets actually had an NFT transaction in them in 2021. It was officially the word of the year, which is cool. And you've heard about this metaverse thing. Well, NFTs are actually a big piece of how they work. So yes, NFTs are here and getting bigger. And in fact, we're seeing it at Queue-it. We work with a lot of brands who sell physical products. We're starting to see other brands very, very interested in this space right here. And today we're going to explore basically how brands, might look at NFTs and decide how they can play in that space. And so if we can just jump right in here to the agenda. Quick discussion. We've done our introductions. So first of all, what opportunities do NFTs entail? Well, they can boost brand awareness. They can generate brand advocates and communities. I love the way you framed that, Jimmy. Create new and unique brand experiences. Make your mark on the metaverse. Capture control over the resale. So have strong control of this. New revenue streams. These all sound like awesome things for companies. And then as you get started, Jimmy's going to share some key considerations like how do we go? How do we get this thing moving? And there'll be a little bit of a chance for Q&A, but I wanted to encourage you all on the audience today. Please feel free to follow up afterwards. We're not going to get to everything in the 45-minute time window today. So please feel free to reach out to us afterwards to chat if you'd like. So jumping on in. NFTs and retailers. How does this work to boost brand awareness? So in my mind, at the most basic level, NFTs are like a marketing opportunity. But I think product launches are fun. So here we are launching new stuff. And we saw this last year where big brands that you might not consider technical in nature, Taco Bell, Coca-Cola, they were rolling out NFTs. The sports and entertainment world seems to love their NFTs. So companies are making headlines across the globe. And so you think of these, the NFT drops NFT drops like releasing a limited edition product. And it might even be not even what your regular product is. Maybe you're launching NFTs kind of on the side. So really there's a lot of interesting angles on how this can work. So, Jimmy, what would you say? What does an NFT launch? What is it? What do you see it does for a brand?
Yeah, I mean, we'll go into all the different things that it can do. I do think this one, looking at it almost strictly from the marketing and kind of a rejuvenation or hit for your brand as far as sort of PR opportunities go, that's actually kind of how Nifty's started. With a project that we did. Our first project was with Warner Brothers around Space Jam, and they took a chance at kind of with us, with this being just a new way to engage fans leading into the release of a film of Space Jam, and looking at it of ways of onboarding maybe some existing fans as well as kind of capturing some new very, very passionate fans. We gave out 92,000 NFTs at extremely accessible price points. So most of it for free, up to literally $3. And those were all gone within hours, which, I think was in and of itself, that was a big, or that was a kind of another hit for the promotion of Space Jam. So, I still think there are, that's about a year ago or year plus ago. I still think there are massive opportunities for brands to jump in and garner attention. It is still just like any other creative battleground where brands are a part of, where the space is rapidly evolving. It rewards innovative and creative ways to tell your story. So you'll have to be really thoughtful about this, just as you would in any other place where you extend your brand. And if it sounds like maybe I'm downplaying a little bit of the big media attention, what I would say is this space is extremely ready for more brands to join it. The people that are already in NFTs and crypto and blockchain, they want brands to almost accept them, and they are looking, looking for those brands that will recognize them. So even if it's not, hey, I just put out an NFT and every media news outlet covers it, you will be able to garner a ton of attention from some very passionate cohorts. So hopefully by the end of the day, we can convince a few folks here to hop in.
Yeah, and I know we're going to dig into one of your examples in a little bit, which I really love, the one about the Matrix. So it's really cool what you said. On the one hand, the NFT world is eager to expand to involve more of the brands that we know and love, and then these brands that we know and love, they can reach new people. So wow, what a multi-sided a project here. So one thing I've noticed about NFTs is it's more about just getting in the news, right? It's sometimes it's about, like you said, how to cross over maybe audiences or how to bring in new kinds of interests. And so we've seen a lot of things that have to do with collaborations. So pictured here is an image Adidas released for their Into the Metaverse NFT. They collaborated with some of the biggest projects out there and biggest creators. And their idea was, they wanted to be with the community for the community. It was really about community, like you said, and they sold out almost immediately. It looks like, and then their prices of these NFTs went up 300% over the original price right away. So, sorry, I didn't mean to do that. So you think about these partnerships as kind of like sponsorships or collaborations. Is that a big piece of NFTs that they have to include a collaboration, or is that just a neat feature of them, would you say?
You don't have to. In fact, like there have been plenty of brands that have, I think even the example I showed or you had on there, Pringles kind of did their own thing. This is just a different route at it. And as a almost a lifelong Nike person, it sometimes pains me to say this. I think Adidas actually did really, really well by this because they said, you know what, before we do our own thing, let's be a part of this space. Let's be genuine to it. And so you can kind of see some of the Bored Ape Yacht Club characters inside of this. They reached out to individuals within the community and started talking to them long before this project started. There's a former Nike teammate of mine that's actually in this photo that I know that this was something that they wanted to be genuine to that community that really wanted them to be a part of it well before they started sort of selling their own NFT. So, it's just a different route. It's not necessary, but it can be quite powerful.
Very cool. Especially having a neat way to launch as well. So we've talked a little bit about that first part. Now, how does this, how do NFTs actually build advocates within your community? I think that's really an interesting piece of this. And so as you can see, people are proud to show off their NFTs when they have them. It becomes part of their identity. And then the owners of these NFTs become part of that community. And this happens because NFTs collections, they're an investment, but it's also kind of a membership to like a club of owners or an exclusive club of owners. And of course, the more desirable any membership comes, the more valuable it becomes. So Jimmy, when people purchase NFTs, what do you think the end game is in general? Is it to own them, to save them, to display them, to trade them, to sell them?
Yes. I mean, the answer is so different from everyone and it's also evolving really quickly. I think maybe where NFTs were even at this time last year versus where they are now, largely sort of speculative in the past. And I think now it's evolving into some other things. And I do think, you'll hear quite a few phrases pretty frequently in NFT and sort of Web3 space, and community is literally always going to be at the top, and for good reason, right? Like, hey, there's some things that sort of bond them together, and you sometimes meet new people. It can be sort of very exclusive. It can be all of those things, and what I share to people is like, it's not just a buzzword though. There was actually a really great piece from A16Z that focuses, and I'll share this after the presentation, but it focused on this idea of a go to community strategy, which is really the process of sort of operationalizing and optimizing all of those community building efforts to align them with business outcomes. And doing it with a community first mentality can sometimes be even stronger than just selling and selling and selling. And I would say that we've all of the brands that we've worked with thus far, or that we're kind of working with, and the creators that we're working with behind the scenes right now, they understand that in order to be a part of this, that many people are coming into it for different reasons, and it's not the same old it's not the same old thing. And so they know that they can't come in and set up a metaverse shop or kind of this walled garden for their brand, and just extract value from their fans and community. So I want to give a little bit of credit to them, like Warner Brothers and the other partnerships that we'll be launching with soon. As a baseline, they've been really willing to allow us as well as their community to explore, their intellectual property and really in places that they wouldn't normally be. So Discord, for example, is kind of this beating hub of where a lot of these communities live. That's not where Warner Brothers would have brought the Matrix, that we'll talk about in a little bit, but they've trusted us as well as that community to kind of architect new experiences for those fans and include them in earning rewards, just for engaging. And I think that's some of the, that's the baseline. That some of the more advanced versions of this, brands are realizing that you're going to find community members that are really, really astute and want to give you product feedback, and insights, and they even want to support the brands because, when people are coming in and asking questions, like NFTs are a very confusing space. They're ready to hop in on your behalf. So it's just kind of this very wide ranging, the things that a community can do for you in this space, as long as you're approaching it with, like I said, not that walled garden. It's us selling to you. It's sort of a new venture together with your communities.
Well, I know from a marketing standpoint, activating your base, right, is enormously powerful. I have in my notes here, this slide is all Jimmy. Can you talk about what this means to community and how this works?
I had in my notes that this was all you. No, I mean, I think this kind of hits on the last little bit of my piece there is when you're investing in the community and aligning the incentives with them, they are so ready to go. And I mean, it's not a new behavior, but it's sort of enabling word of mouth at a different velocity than you've ever seen before. So, when your community feels like an owner of a project, you will see them go and promote, or like I mentioned before, asking or answering questions of anybody, because they know more about your brand and specifically more about your brand's operations than ever before. Like this morning, I've got community members for something that we're managing right now that are like, somebody wanted to know when a new payment provider was going to be on our platform. And people are like, no, that's 2 weeks from now. Don't ask about it this week. I'm like, that's insane. So the amount of sort of the cyclical nature of people buying in and bringing and being invested, it's kind of a new spin on an old model.
Yep, I love it. And I think a lot of NFTs have a bit of a creative nature about them. And how do you know if something creative is hitting is you see validation in the community. So it's kind of a cool little engine you can get going too. I've seen that with some of the different projects out there that you've been working on. Well, moving forward, so much to cover today. So part 3, option 3 or aspect 3 was to create new and unique brand experiences. So NFTs, we're in what's called being called an experience economy. And I looked it up just to confirm. Basically, it's as you sell products and services to people, you're trying to make something memorable. You want to become top of mind, and NFTs are all about this. And so in a way, traditional advertising can be a little fatiguing for customers, but NFTs really, it's something that's about engagement and participation in a way. And so basically, if this is true that we're in an experience economy where your customers don't just buy your products and services, but they want to experience something memorable about your brand, well, NFT is a chance to create a new form of merchandise, a new kind of collectible. Maybe you create NFTs and you basically focus on rewarding loyal fans or customers. So NFTs could be some type of graduated experience. You want customers to reach maybe an elite level or something. Or maybe there's a part of your offering that you say we're only going to do that in NFT, a certain thing that you might do. So this is really, really cool. And jumping in, we happen to have Jimmy with an awesome case study here. Can you tell us a little bit about what we're seeing on the screen right now?
Yeah, absolutely. So this is a great graphic from our awesome designers at Nifty's. That is for the Matrix avatars, which I'll give the quick like what it is and a little bit of kind of the behind the scenes is in the lead up to the first new movie in I think almost like 20 years. Warner Brothers decided to to go all in and engage their fans of this franchise in a new way and do it in a way that sort of evoked a lot of the film's metaphors. What it was is 100,000 avatars. So the kind of the people you saw it looked very normal and then kind of changed into these the badasses with leather and cool swords and stuff. Those were profile photos. So this was actually the biggest profile photo or PFP project to date. We did 100,000 of them, and each of them was created with the MetaHuman creator. So very, very realistic, but I'll kind of talk through some of the mechanics. But as we worked through this with Warner Brothers, there were a few strategies that we had leading into the drop. And one was just, speaking to your biggest fans as a fellow fan. I think in some ways this allowed Warner Brothers to kind of have a different voice of almost a super fan versus just, let's say, promotional for the movie. So it was little things that we can, I'll kind of hit on along the way, but it was like, when do we launch this thing? What day and what time? We actually landed on having the sale beginning at 1:01 p.m., which was a small nod that fans got that was Neo's apartment number for fans of the Matrix. That was a nice little touch. We were also, another one of the strategies was just closing the gaps of understanding of what NFTs are and making it really easy to onboard someone, whether that was through content or just the experience itself. So we worked with them to make sure that anyone could buy with a credit card and fiat. So it wasn't just kind of the somewhat confusing sometimes way of buying with crypto. Another one of our strategies was really making it pretty impossible to miss. I talked about the very passionate NFT fan base that exists now. There's a nascent media landscape that's sort of coming up around that. And right now it's a little bit, or then it was a little bit easier to cover a lot of that. So we really focused on NFT media, partnership with kind of trusted voices in the space, newsletters, launch calendars. So, almost tackling the new media landscape that is coming along with NFTs. And then finally, the thing that, that kind of kicked off the question here is like, we wanted Warner Brothers and, in partnership with us to really innovate and lead the industry in embracing this new digital community experience. So in this project, the NFT, the avatar that you purchased, it looked like a very average human being, but you then got to live out or kind of have your avatar live out one of the most iconic scenes in film history, where you actually got to give it you had the choice of giving it a red pill or a blue pill. And if you chose the red pill, your avatar was transformed into the badass, again, the leather, the tattoos, the weapons, and they get to compete in sort of missions to be the one. But what's interesting is like, we never saw the story of the blue pill if someone chose the other path. And it was really amazing that Warner Brother allowed someone to kind of take that path where your avatar is actually now going to live out a different storyline that's never been told. And it'll have different community experiences and rewards that tie out, living out the story of an office worker that chose not to follow the strangers in leather that were asking them crazy questions. So by participating in a blue pill only community event, you might actually win Avatar Employee of the Month mug, or something from the Meta Cortex building, which is where Neo worked before taking the red pill. So those things are just that's only possible when a brand kind of lets loose of some of those reins and leans in to rewarding and allowing their fans to take something entirely to a new space. So I just, again, a tip of the cap to Warner Brothers for allowing us to set off on this crazy project.
Well, that's really amazing. When I think about, all the potential for different brands to play there, Matrix kind of seems ready-made for an NFT, but like you say, an NFT isn't necessarily just a snapshot of something. It can be the beginning of an experience. That just kind of blew my mind. I want to go to the next slide. I'm going to think about that one later. That is super cool. And so, Warner Brothers, the Matrix, the idea of these NFT-powered brand experiences, so if you're thinking, well, it's easy for a huge film franchise like the Matrix and, a group like Nifty's and the Warner Brothers to pull this off. Well, yeah, huge brands, Louis Vuitton's, all that, they can pull off that NFT-powered experience. So Louis Vuitton, for example, created an entire video game filled with their iconic imagery and motifs along the way. I think they had 30 limited edition NFTs. So yeah, big brands, have a lot of avenues to do this, but many brands are taking this marketing really seriously. And where this is happening is the metaverse. So I just wanted to segue briefly to talk about the metaverse in case you've heard of it. So this is really what we're doing. This place where these NFTs exist. We've heard this term. Basically, this is a virtual space or a set of spaces where people can interact with their environment and other people. So what you might not know is that in this metaverse world, NFTs are actually more important than ever. And it's an enormous opportunity for brands. So, when I'm kind of an old school thinker about marketing, when I think about marketing, I think about generating foot traffic. More foot traffic is more sales, like in retail and all of that. So here's a virtual world. If you were to take a walk through the streets of Sandbox, which is a metaverse, you'll find that these virtual lands are owned by Warner Music, Adidas, Ubisoft, Gucci, financial institutions, HSBC. So why are they in the metaverse? Well, they're taking a bet on where the attention is moving, foot traffic. Gartner predicts that the global metaverse market will hit nearly $42 billion by 2026, and 25% of people will spend an hour a day in the metaverse. And active metaverse users increased 10x between 2020 and June 2021, and these numbers are just going to rise. So this is actually, even for an old school marketing thinker like myself, foot traffic, people, eyeballs, this is really a cool place to be. And in the metaverse, what's the money? Well, it's either cryptocurrency, and NFTs are the products that cash is spent on. And so we'll move on forward here. So part 5, own your brand and capture control over resale. So we know physical products can be copied, cloned, counterfeited. They can move around. So we just don't know where they end up sometimes. And NFTs have an amazing aspect about them when it comes to being able to control your brand and what happens to these products once they get out there. So in the general world, retail world, product world, fakes are all around us. Interestingly, up to maybe 3.3% of all world trade is fake products that aren't sanctioned or licensed by the manufacturer, cloned products. 20% of this, I don't know if I believe this, but this is crazy. 20% of paintings in museums may be inauthentic, hard to validate, very hard to authenticate. $4 billion valuation of sneaker verification service StockX. And StockX is a company that makes sure the sneakers you buy are legit. And $57 billion, the predicted value of the resale market by 2025. So the people reselling products. So sometimes we don't mind this as retailers, but hey, they bought the product, let them do what they want. Sometimes it is more important for us to say, we want these products to go into loyal fans' hands, certain people's hands, and we want to make sure that people know they're getting something authentic. So what about this problem of counterfeit goods? Well, in the NFT world, there's a kind of a concept of a digital twin. So a digital twin kind of helps solve this problem. And with a digital twin, physical items would be linked to an NFT and stored in a blockchain. And blockchains are hard to manipulate. You just have to trust blockchains that they are very solid places for this type of stuff to be recorded. Can't be manipulated, can't be changed. And so these NFTs aren't really so think of it like a receipt. When you buy an NFT, you are owning an authentic certificate for a digital copy of a product that you love. So NFTs have built into it authenticity. We know who bought it, we know who owns it, we know what they own. So there's just, by their very nature, an NFT is basically like a license. And when you own that license, it's not just saying that you own that NFT, but the whole chain of people that owned it before you is part of the license. In art world, they call that provenance. When you buy a piece of art, you want to know the history of that piece. And it's really hard to find that sometimes over time. But with NFTs, the provenance of the piece is built into the NFT. So NFTs have some interesting power in their technology. We talked about authenticity. We've talked about the full life of an NFT is there. There's even things like when these NFTs are bought, traded, and sold, there's something in the blockchain world called a smart contract, where you can actually very easily set up a royalty system, a commission system, a fee system into the way NFTs change hands. They're called smart contracts. Ethereum pioneered that concept, super powerful. So again, with digital twin NFTs, customers can purchase with confidence in knowing that they have this authentic product, how many people have owned it, the price history of the product. Nothing is going to be secret. And so the idea of, the very nature of these products being almost impossible to copy, very transparent. There's actually a vibe about NFTs and the NFT community where it is about transparency. It is about, dare I say, even like honesty with the nature of these products. And so I really think that's cool. As a person who's following this marketing trend, how real, I guess you could say, the NFT market feels to me. So we talked about counterfeiting and the fact that these products are solid. The last point we were going to make here, going into some more discussion, is NFTs could be a way to drive new revenue streams. And business entrepreneurship 101, that sounds like a great idea to me. So NFT sales, what we're thinking is they may not surpass your traditional sales of your products, but for all the benefits that we've said, is it a place to be as a brand? I kind of think yes. So here we are talking about how NFT drops can drive revenue. See some numbers on the screen. Adidas had a successful drop. $700 million spent on NBA NFTs in under a year. And that's even more than, that's almost half of the ticket sales for a year. So in a very simple sense, NFTs kind of empower businesses to expand this offering, reinforce the brand, create a brand new revenue stream that didn't exist. Now you might think, wow, I want to create NFTs and sell them. How expensive are they to make? Well, they can actually be relatively cheap to produce, and they can be made in any quantity that you choose. You might say, we're going to make just 2 of those and make them super exclusive. We're going to make 2,000 of those and try to get them into more people's hands. So you can actually pick, when you're making NFTs, how many you want, and it's actually a very economical product to build. It's just a digital product. So they can be cheap to produce, and there's no shipping, there's no manufacturing. You can set the price that you want. So in terms of a product, it's kind of like a dream product in a way, how you can actually craft it, how you would like to do it. In a way, there's really, you think about the experience you get, there's really nothing like NFT that's really ever existed before. So this is just a really cool piece. And so I've mentioned what I think I know, and Jimmy, just, our perspective is we help NFT companies and brands try to conduct these sales. We don't make NFTs. We don't get them set up. We don't sell them, transfer them, market them, anything. Can you share some key considerations as a brand is kind of considering dipping the toe and jumping into this?
Yeah, I mean, I think if you go to the next slide, there was, there's plenty of really good, things to keep in mind. I would simplify, in a few of these is like just being original and true to your brand when incorporating or kind of stepping into this world is a must. I don't, I think I kind of mentioned it. It's like, hey, don't just do it as a PR stunt. Know that there's a very passionate audience that is willing to or ready to accept your brand as long as you're true to it and aligned with them. And I think a lot of these, these are finer points, but being authentic and original is the name of the game everywhere. So don't look at this as like, all right, NFTs, we don't have to do, like, you still have to be yourself on the blockchain, is a pretty solid rule of thumb. I think I believe the next slide has maybe one more thing that is worth pointing out is, I think, especially in the early phases of last year, or kind of in one of the let's say the NFT hype cycles, is there was a lot of, hey, you can't do this. This is, there's no sustainability to it. That's not really true. And you can kind of see it here. You don't have to compromise a brand's sustainability efforts. We happen to be on our NFTs are currently all on Palm, which is a sort of a side blockchain where it costs 99% less, which minting an NFT is basically the equivalent of sending 2 emails. So there was a lot of narrative in that. I wouldn't advise anyone of like throw it all out the window, but having almost your facts straight as you enter this space pairs really nicely with knowing who your brand is. And then finally, I think the next slide, or well, there's also this, which as not a lawyer, I don't want to get into this one too much, but there's some other homework to do in making sure that that the IP that you're representing is yours. The provenance that James was talking about, you want to make sure that you have things straight. But it's actually the final slide, I think, before I'll kick it back to JB on transparency. That's the one thing that for anyone thinking about entering this space, I think that's the biggest changer in the way that a brand might need to approach this. Nobody's asked this here, but I get asked this question a lot of, why'd you leave Nike and go to this really, really goofy thing? I was having a bunch of realizations. One, that my kids valued virtual goods as much as they did physical goods. I saw that there was a bunch of, that you were talking about the NBA NFTs. I saw that there was some new ways of replacing old things in sort of like sport collectibles and things like that. But transparency and trust was something that, as a marketer at Nike, I always, like, the trust with a consumer is something that we cared about deeply, but we had many non-transparent ways of going about, our retail. And it was actually last year, there was a bit of a story on an executive's son at Nike that was getting inappropriate access to products. And it broke trust for many, many of us that were working on different projects. I mean, people are like, well, why should I even try? You're just gonna give it to that guy's, that woman's son. And I realized at that moment that NFTs they don't seem like a competitor to a shoe, but the transparency and the trust that someone can have is that is really competitive. And you kind of mentioned like what the blockchain provides is people can see where everything is. They can see how many units you have. They can see where those units have gone. And that level of transparency is something that we've actually, we've embraced. Like we know that everyone can see everything. So we can't, there's a handful of things that we won't do. And it also gives us more guidance of things that we should do. So I talked a lot about the community relationships. I don't know another industry that's quite as in tune of like the community knows our internal teams, right? Like people that are devs and our designers and my team. Our dev team has worked with some of the community developers that want to develop other tools. And so they've had sessions where it's like, these people don't work for Nifty's, but our developers have kind of coached and given them access to a lot of things that I never would have seen and experienced at Nike. And those little small touches of recognizing people, that transparency generates an entirely different velocity of people sort of accepting a brand in this space. And that is like, if there's one thing that you all take away is like, approaching this space with transparency is going to be something that I think the best brands will do. So that is some of my last like food for thought for everyone.
Well, I love that message of transparency. And I mentioned, at Queue-it, we work with lots of brands that have high demand products, and really fairness, informing people of what's going on and having control are a huge piece of what we do for them and to make these sales go as well as they do. And we love working with the NFT sales. Your audience is just so engaged. We can tell that. And so, this gives me a chance to mention how Queue-it, what we do, plays into this a little bit. So we know that whenever there's a crash or slowdown or any kind of barrier to getting the sale done, that it's not ideal. And so maybe the first one is hype, and the second one you got to get it right. And so that's what Queue-it does, is with the tools that we have, online fairness, informed wait and control, really want to make sure that the sale executes smoothly so that you don't have those opportunity costs of missed opportunity, reputational damage in the news. Maybe people are going to pick somewhere else to go. So this is what we want to do, is to make sure that the sale goes super, super well. Again, we showed this one, and we work with this, but this was just a really cool one to watch. And this was an example of the Queue-it waiting room. So as they're going through this drop and the person says, I want to be there, they know they're in line. They know how much time it's going to take. They know if they're going to get through. We pause the line here just to be able to take a screenshot, but it's a beautiful experience. And so sometimes people know when they show up for a high demand product, they might not get it. There's only so many available, but are they having a great experience in the process? Do they feel well treated? Do they feel like I have a good chance next time? And so that's part of what Queue-it does, is to try to create a great end user experience, even when there's some form of scarcity in place and not everybody is going to win. So real quick, how our virtual waiting room works, just wanted to share the technology. A bunch of folks will arrive at the site. Our system can tell if it's more traffic than you want, or if it's traffic arriving for a certain sale. We can fairly move them into a waiting room. We have tools like first in, first out, randomization. We're letting people know what's going on. And then as the business rules, which are totally within our customers' control, happen, like how fast do you want the waiting room to go? What do you want to show them? People are basically securely moved back to the site where they can basically take advantage of the product or offering as fast as the system can allow. It might be 100 users a minute. It might be 100,000 users a minute, probably not 100,000. But the bottom line is systems can move as fast as they can, elegantly, with a great user experience, if we can come in. And that's just the nature of NFTs, is you get so many people showing up so fast. Systems really aren't built for that sometimes. And so we can basically hold that demand and move it to the site as fast as it can go. And so one thing I mentioned at Queue-it really quick, there's been talk about transparency. NFTs are assets. There's money involved. So security is actually a pretty big deal. And the idea is that at Queue-it, we're not really a security company per se. We throw junk in the road for the bad actors, the bots and all that. We want to make it hard for them to get to your place, but we want to identify the people and help them scoot through. So we have techniques, especially with NFT companies that might have a know your customer policy. We can create a unique identifier for a user. We can help them go through the waiting room and back to your site securely. They can't share their session. They can't do some of the bad actor exploits, and they can get through, get the NFT, and move forward. So we've got different tools for addressing the speedy bots. We can do certain forms of blocking of the bad traffic. The real idea, though, is with NFTs, when someone signs in, you know who that person is, and you can guarantee them kind of a white glove experience through the waiting process to the NFT drop, getting their product and moving forward. And we'd love to chat with everybody about this. Feel free to get in touch with us. And so one thing that we would say is people say, James, what do you do? I can say, well, we provide waiting room technology, but what I really say is we sell stress reduction. These are some of your most important days as a brand, high intensity. We don't want the ability to conduct an awesome sale to be the biggest stress that you'll have. So basically, whatever capacity, whatever traffic arrives, everybody gets a fair experience, even if they don't get the item. And when you have that kind of uniformity to say, we're going to have hundreds of thousands of people showing up today, we need to move them through our site at 1,000 a minute. You actually have a great way to control some of the costs too, like how there's unexpected, gas bidding fees and things like that. Smoothness, they say slow is smooth and smooth is fast, is a great way to have like a hype sale that actually executes super, super well. So into the summary, we're right at the time, basically. Opportunities NFTs provide retailers. These 6 things, boom, 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 5, 6. We just talked about those today in great detail. And Jimmy shared all kinds of great experiences, as Nifty's, which is a platform for doing this. And so I thought really, really great summary today. And we, in the time that we have here, Jimmy, we pretty much know that this is something I think every brand should at least consider, right? And say, well, maybe yes today, maybe no later, but something that kind of is on the radar. A great chance to tap into new demand, to cross over to new markets. Just an excellent place to be. And one thing I have for you, Jimmy, is a question that has come in from the audience here. And sorry, I had a call come in. I had to close my phone. A question came in from the audience. What are the demographics that you're seeing? Is this, we mentioned maybe the youth being a little more experienced in the digital world, a little more accustomed to it. What demographics are you seeing of the folks who are really interested in NFTs?
Yeah, I mean, it's still very, like, it's almost buzzword, but it's still very early in the adoption of this. So there is, from what we can tell, it's a fairly large portion of it is young male. I think we are personally very committed to changing that. What I would say is, this is also part of my like origin story of why I think this is really powerful. Is I think right now is not necessarily indicative of what the opportunities are. Again, I mentioned like my kids are going to live in a more digital world, and they're going to live in a world where they sort of value things physical and digital on the same footing. So I think we're going to see a larger adoption as kind of Gen Z and future generations. So you'll see a more, I would say, level playing field of lots of different demographics coming into this, because it will just be, they'll come up with these things being normal. So early on, I think it is that the early adopters are a largely male sort of dominated industry right now, but I don't see it being that case for too much longer.
Yeah, and I would say the same thing. Bought tickets for my parents to go to an event, and there was a NFT digital keepsake of the tickets offered to them, and it was a way to remember the night. So I do think the crossover potential is enormous. It just kind of leans on creativity a little bit. And speaking on creativity, so we have time for 2 questions, folks, here. And just encourage you to get in touch. And Jimmy, we do have your email address. I know you mentioned the partner one, but if you want to contact Jimmy and talk more, please use that there. NFTs have such an awesome creative component to them. For a creator who is just starting from scratch, it's kind of difficult to not create, but to gain a following, to gain a social media following. What tips might you have for a creator who's interested in this to gain a following?
I mean, content's still king in this world. And if anything, I think content is going to be a great accelerator. So for those of you, I mean, there's lots of great articles on, the power of the power of 1,000 fans, or I forget what the phrase is, but focusing on the people that have come to you for your content. The NFTs are kind of a way to actually enable, or like I said, aligning incentives of even a small group of fans. So I would still kind of focus on building out the content that you believe best represents you and is part of the small but growing audience that you can build up. So I'm that's a little bit of a punt, but it's like start small and start authentic to you.
I just noticed a video last week. My friend sent it to me on YouTube. It's finding that first crazy follower. So you do your thing, right? And then finding the first crazy follower, and then the pop person that comes after that. It's really starting that way. Interesting question. Well, another one that popped in here, and this is so interesting. I'm sorry, folks. We're going to go over just a little bit just to get to this question. What would you say when a brand comes to you and they're ready to do this? What's something that might shock them about the process, if anything?
I mean, again, I hate to beat a dead horse, but it's like the transparency, right? Like you kind of can't really fake it in this world of like, no, everything was great. We totally sold out. Like people can see that. So it is sort of that. We do see some brands saying like, well, can't you just like obfuscate it in some way? And the answer is no. So I definitely think that plays into one of my previous bullet points of like being ready to be more transparent is something that's not every brand is ready for just yet.
I think that's true. And the last question is actually it came in. I think it's for me. Are there any significant technical differences with using the Queue-it solution for NFT sales versus traditional retail commerce? What Jimmy just said is really it. There's this level of transparency, fairness, and actually you can't just say we're a fair site. Everybody has an equal chance. You got to do it. You got to do those things. And so I find in our NFT projects that we have a little more security awareness, a little more awareness around making sure a person, for example, signs in and they can follow the whole website journey without some of the bad actor exploits or the ability for someone to abuse the system and get more than what they're supposed to. So we have the tool set for this as Queue-it. I will say not all brands care. Sometimes brands just have a product they just want to sell out. But I think with NFTs, there's that nature about them that you want to make sure they get in the right people's hands and have that control. So I would say for us, the NFT projects in specific, I've done a few of them. There's that heightened awareness of security and fairness and transparency compared to others. And, it's great to hear. I think, Jimmy, we agree on that. And it sounds like you guys run an awesome outfit. Looking forward to what you guys have. Can you share what you have coming up next, or is it secret?
There are more entertainment partners that we'll be coming with, some more with Warner Brothers and a handful of others this summer. And yeah, we're constantly fielding some really, really awesome brands that want to do this in the right way. So more to come.
I love it. Keep an eye on Nifty. Well, Christian, we've broken the time limit. Back to you, sir.
All good. I think it was really engaging, lively conversation today. I think we saw also some comments in the chat as well. The signal that seemed to be value adding. So hopefully people will excuse the going a few minutes over here. But yeah, as Jimmy and James mentioned, we're at time. So thanks to you again for joining the webinar today. Some great questions in there as well. Really nice food for thought and things to think about for an upcoming potential drop, NFT drop. So if you are looking into an NFT drop, we do have a checklist. I dropped a link in the chat as well, and there's a QR code here if you're if you'd prefer that way. It's nice to have a little overview of the considerations to make sure that you hit all those to make sure your NFT drop goes off smoothly and successfully. So with that said, we'll send out a recording in the next day or two so you can go back and revisit a certain section of today's webinar, pass it along to a peer or a colleague if you'd like as well. So with that said, thank you so much for attending. Have a fantastic day, and we'll be in touch.